Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our virtual networking event for students interested in research-oriented careers. Thank you all for coming, both participants and guest speakers. We genuinely appreciate your time. So just a reminder for the general schedule today, we plan on doing a short panel discussion from now until about 6:30. And then breakout rooms so that people can talk individually with researchers that are working in fields of interest for individual students. And then we can have concluding remarks and ensure that anything that hasn't been said as a group is said at the end. So now that we've had that laid out, I'm just going to start off the panel discussion with 3 broad questions that any of you can feel free to answer, and you guys can answer that, and then we'll open the floor to students. I'm sure all of you will take turns and whatnot, and I know some of you had sent in written answers to the questions, but this is more of just a relatively informal, talk about how you have advanced your career in research and ultimately why you continue to do so. So the first question that I'm going to ask of you guys, and any one of you can feel free to answer, is what made you decide to pursue and continue a career in research?
I guess I can jump in if I'll initiate everything. My name is Peter Kelleher, originally from Ireland, been in the United States since 1993. Why would I be involved in research? Passion. Nothing more, nothing less. I am a marine mammal biologist, and there was no other career that I wanted to be involved in. Why I continue? Because again, I guess I'm making a living, but it's passion. I wouldn't see myself doing anything else, and it's purely driven by that and nothing else.
I'm Alex. I'll build off what Peter said. I'm a 8th year MD PhD student at Wayne, my last year of med school. So obviously research, like you said, is it's a way of life. But why would I do it if it's not very lucrative though? That's the thing with research compared to medicine. Like if I was just to do straight medicine, I could probably make twice as much than just doing research. So like you said, it has to come from within. It has to be a passion, that something that you really have to want to do, and something that money can't really buy, which is like happiness and fulfillment with your career.
Both are excellent answers. Thank you very much. Does anyone else want to add to that?
Yeah, hi, I'm Savannah Brannon. I am a PhD student at SIU Medicine. And so the reason I wanted to pursue a career in research is because I really enjoy writing and critical thinking, and like the idea of changing medicine as opposed to just practicing it. Because I feel like as a researcher, you have more of a role in implementing new ideas and new practices into medicine. And especially for women's focused research, I think it's really important for that to be included as well.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Brannon. Mr. Exclusioner, please go ahead. I see that you have your hand up.
I love the answers I've heard so far. Those are great. I will add to it that I am providing a service. And that's part of what gets me going in the morning, that I'm providing a service to other people, and that's part of the person that I want to be. So that's helping me with the fulfillment that I heard before and the passion that I heard before. And I think it's probably true on the money thing too. So I like your answers previously. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Exclusioner. Anyone else before we move on to the next question?
Sure, I can answer some too. Hi all, my name is Lindsay McQuaid. I'm in the UIC College of Pharmacy, and I am a chemist by training originally. And what drew me to that originally is that I just love to make things and I like to be creative. And I think scientific research is a fantastic way you can also add new things to the world and create new things and just be really creative. And I think people tend to think of a creative career as something as like the arts or writing, but there's so many ways to be creative in science. And that's something that really drew me to it as well.
Thank you very much, Dr. McQuaid. Unless anyone else has anything else to add, in which case, please raise your hand. I'm going to move on to the next question. So what setbacks have you experienced in your respective research careers and areas?
I can start if you like, Errol. I'm in government, federal government. I work for the USDA. And one of the things that's happened slowly over time, but very quickly over the last few years, is really a distrust in government institutions. And that inhibits our ability to gather information. That's our primary goal, is to gather information and publish reports that describe what's happening in the agricultural world. And that has become harder. COVID put some restrictions on the way we do things, but a larger issue is how people view government institutions and the trust level they have with them, which has been declining slowly and now more rapidly recently.
I would second that, because I work with the government as well. I work with NOAA, National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration, on the National Marine Fisheries side. And we've fraught with difficulty, both because we research, but we also put regulations into place. And if you're doing a good job, you have both sides, both the fishermen and I guess non-profit organizations at your heels saying too much, or if it's on one side, not enough. The personal side of things, difficulty is I'm involved in right whale management and research, and the species was increasing slightly. We were up to about 550 animals, and over the last 8 or 9 years, we're way back on that. We're back to about 350 of the species left, which is not a good indication that we're doing a good job, but we're still on it, and hopefully we will get back on the increase of the population.
I think one of the other huge setbacks that probably a lot of people have experienced too is money. We've talked about that before. I'm not talking about money that you make, but grant money is getting harder and harder to come by. Again, I work at UIC. It's a federal, state school. We're highly reliant on state and federal funding, and the NIH budgets keep going down, budgets for other sources, it gets more and more competitive, and less money you have, less resources if you're students you can get. So that's always, a big hurdle that people are up against.
I find it funny that when the setback question comes out, the first answer is, well, I work in government. I am going to be a little bit vulnerable here. Dealing with mental health issues. That is a huge setback that is very important to acknowledge and recognize, right? I think that, yes, tangible things like money matter. But at the end of the day, when we do science, we do it because we do it sometimes because we're part of a community, right? We want to promote healthcare and well-being, but in order to do well, we also have to be well at the same time. And academia can be very stressful. I mean, its motto is basically publish or perish. And I think that motto brings and scares a lot of people away. So definitely being aware of one's well-being and being self-compassionate is, I think, one of the biggest obstacles to success.
I think adding to your publish or perish idea, I think a lot of the times people are so stressed to get data out there that they're not taking a step back to understand how they're publishing their data at the same time as well. And I know like a big issue right now is that for a long time they excluded female animal models from a lot of studies because they messed with all the data and they made it look different, and they didn't want to publish that because it was messing with their data. But now they're realizing this is important and they need to publish on it. And so I think when you take a step back and realize the whole picture, that kind of makes you realize that you can't just publish everything and make it look good. Like it needs to also be benefiting the people you're publishing it for.
Excellent. These are all very insightful answers. So what I'm hearing is ultimately, a variety of different setbacks, from financial constraints to mental health. And these are very good for students to realize before they embark on a career which, ideally they would continue to pursue for the rest of their lives. Does anyone else have anything to add to that question?
Yeah, I guess for me, the field is very competitive, not alone competitive for funding or for grants, but just competitive to get a job. And it's unlike an accountant or whatever, where there are accountants in most firms or most organizations. Depending on what career path you choose or profession, there can be less and less of more competition in less places.
And to piggyback off that, it's not just the competition, but it's not like you said, like an accountant or something like that, where you can go wherever you want either. Your job may only be offered in a certain place, or only certain cities are hiring. And so you really have to think about your kind of work-life balance and living where you want to live, and maybe you have family or a partner and what they want to do as well too. That can make it really challenging in the job market, as well as just the base competition.
All right, excellent answers. Thank you very much, all of you. Now I'm going to move on to the third question, unless anyone else has anything to add to that. What are some of the focus areas at your respective research institutions, and how has this inspired you to keep going?
I guess that's again. There's every profession that you can really think of, marine chemists, oceanographers, photographers, engineers, computing people, marine biologists, fishing management specialists. There are a myriad of abilities and professions and outlets. And there's microbiologists. So that there's the whole array of science-based marine careers available. And it's amazing. When I was growing up, I never even knew of most of them until I actually got involved.
I guess one unique thing, one very special thing about the NIH is that it's the National Institutes of Health. There are 27 of them, And you have entire institutes dedicated to mental health, which is the one that I worked at. You have an institute that dedicates to cardiovascular diseases. There's another one that studies deafness and communication disorders. There's an entire institute dedicated to just studying the eye. And it's such a unique opportunity to be able to learn from what scientists in other fields do that you probably wouldn't be even aware of if you stay, for example, in just a niche field. And I think that that collaborative environment lends itself to a lot of possibilities.
So where I am, I'm in a college of pharmacy. So we're a little bit more focused than like the NIH, but still quite a wide range of things. So we have folks who are doing kind of more like bench science. We're talking medicinal chemists and biologists figuring out molecular mechanisms of disease, what happens to the drug when it gets in your body, how do we make new drugs from natural products, different things like that. And then we have folks doing more sociology, epidemiology, economics, how do you price a drug? How do you make sure people take their medication, like that side of stuff. And then we also have pharmacy services. So we have individuals interested in doing, becoming pharmacists, clinical trials, you know, infectious disease, things like that. So we have kind of a wide range of different types of research that's going on in our college.
So at my school, SIU Medicine, I'm a part of the pharmacology department. So it's a branch of pharmacy, but we mostly focus on taking drugs and looking at their effects on the system within usually animal models or in culture. And then that will eventually go into human trials. So that's kind of where pharmacology comes in. And there's a lot of neuro labs, like Alzheimer's labs, neurodevelopmental labs. We also have aging labs and cardio labs. So there's a lot of different pharmacology approaches there.
Yeah, I guess one other thing is, even though I'm in a science-based laboratory, there are opportunities for nearly every profession you can think of, you know, writers, photographers, statisticians, you know, it's, you can direct a lot of opportunity in many areas. You don't have to go into like non-science. You can definitely hit science with most career paths, because it is like any other industry or organization. It needs support. It needs backroom support, and so you can actually get a job in a lot of different careers, even an accountant.
Yeah, so I'll go. My name is Christy Mayo, and I represent the Van Andel Institute Graduate School. We're a biomedical research institute in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And the type of research that we do falls into 5 areas. So, Emery just joined. Emery is one of our students, actually. We focus on neurodegenerative disease, epigenetics, metabolism and nutritional programming, structural biology, and cell biology. And you know, we currently have, we would be considered a small institute. We currently have 36 labs. But as far as the careers that our graduates have gone into, they really run the gamut from, you know, straight into academia as assistant professors, you know, into industry. I'd say about 2/3 go into postdocs. So there's really quite a variety.
Thank you. Unless anyone else wants to also indicate the or answer the previous question, which is the focus areas at your respective institutions and how they have keeps you motivated to maintain a research career. I'm going to open the floor to students, and I know it's about 6:25 now, but the schedule that I mentioned earlier is just a rough schedule, so we can definitely be flexible. If students have lots of questions, then we can definitely extend that time as well. So are there any students that have any questions for either the collective panel or any individual researcher here? Please don't be shy. Mrs. Nisbet White, you have a question?
Yeah,
You
if
can go
that's
ahead.
okay.
Yeah, of course, that's okay.
So hi everyone. My name is Kristen Nisbet White, and I'm here in the UIS Career Center, and I'm so grateful to be working with Errol on this event tonight. My question for all the panelists is just if there's been a time in your career where you took a twist or a turn. So whether that be early on, if you changed your major multiple times in undergrad, or if you started in a different field and kind of got to this field, but was there ever a turning point that kind of helped to clarify, like if you started in a different direction that you're like, nope, this is, I want to make this move and this change kind of get on your career path that you're on now. So any career turning points or reflective points that you've come across in your career journey?
I can speak to this. So I'm Samuel. I'm a third-year graduate student at Washington University in St. Louis. And the big turning point for me was actually happened at the very beginning of undergrad. So after high school, I decided I was good at biology and chemistry, which means I was either going to med school or going into research. It's kind of what I decided for myself. And freshman year of college, I took a in medical sociology course. And after 1 week, I knew I didn't want to go to med school. It just closed that door for me immediately. And I'm really grateful that I was able to get that experience my first year instead of my third. So it's kind of just good to be able to be open to these kind of opportunities and know really quickly what you want to do, what you like to do, what you definitely don't want to do has been really helpful for me.
I guess initially when I went to school, first of all, I didn't know I want to go to college. And then I pushed myself. I'm from a large family, 8 siblings. No one before me, I was 6th. No one before me went to college. So I kind of did something that nobody had done in the family. And I had no guidance or little guidance. I had to push myself in many different directions. I did science initially, general science, and I actually, after 2 years, I kind of stopped college and I worked in a laboratory. And then I tried to move about a year or 2, and I wanted to go into research. And the company I worked with didn't want to put me into research. So I was like, I better go back to school. So I went back to school and finished college. And at that stage, I reassessed. And I think that gave me, I didn't have a clear view prior to that. But when I worked and I knew I was going back to college and I had to pay for it myself, things came into focus a little more. I knew that I wanted to be in the marine sciences area. So I targeted a different college. And so that kind of put me on the path where I wanted to be. It's you don't have to know immediately what you want to do, but it's good, as Samuel says, to know if there is a direction. It's better but it's not always necessary.
Thank you. Mr. Sklugener, please go ahead.
Yeah, I think for many people, including scientists, at a certain point in your career, you may have a choice to go into management. And that may feel like selling out and going away from science. And if you feel that way, then you don't need to go that direction. But if you do go into management, it doesn't mean you're achieving all of those research goals. It means you're helping other people to achieve their research goals. And that can be vitally important. Good athletes need good coaches. That's the best analogy I have. So if that opportunity is there and you think you're selling out your scientific goals to be a manager, you're wrong. It's not that. It is a change. It is different, but you can help other people do the fantastic things that you want to do. And you can still help do those things yourself.
Thank you, Mr. Sklugener. Dr. McQuaid, please go ahead.
I'm the perfect person to go after that because I actually switched from a career as a professor about 6 years ago into the academic professional and more administrative side of the university. So I kind of did exactly what Mark was just talking about for various reasons. Partly, I just realized, even though I really love research and I love chemistry, that the actual day-to-day lifestyle of doing it, and a little bit of going back to what Victor said before, of the mental health, that stress of publish or perish, and like how do you actually have to run a lab, just didn't really suit my personality maybe as much, even though I loved the research. But I knew I loved working in an academic environment and working with researchers and working with students. So I actually moved from our Department of Chemistry to our College of Pharmacy. And now I work as the Director of Research and Graduate Resources, and I help other researchers get grants. I help our college get programs to bring in undergrads for the summer, to bring in postdoctoral fellows to do their research programs. I work with the graduate students and getting them internships. And it's still very, very rewarding because I get to be, I'm not doing the research, but I get to hear all about it. I get to be involved in it. It's still beneficial to have done my PhD and done my background because I still need to understand all of that to write grants and, move forward. But yeah, I'm basically view it as I'm helping all these other people do their research careers. And so instead of me doing my one research career, I'm trying to facilitate, many, many other people to do their research career. So it's definitely, if that's a thing anyone's interested either later in the breakout or now, I'm happy to talk more about alternative careers other than just research.
Thank you, Dr. McQuaid. Dr. Halley, please go ahead.
All right, now I'm unmuted. Hi, sorry I was a little late. I'm Emery Haley. I'm actually almost finished with my PhD at the Van Andel Institute where Christy was introducing. So I've had several points where I think I've pivoted so far, and I'm not even done with my PhD yet. I started as a biomedical engineering major in undergrad, got through the first week of classes and realized engineering was absolutely not going to work for me. Switched to a neuroscience major. And then in my second year of undergrad, I was shadowing doctors and also working as a research bench technician. And I figured out pretty quickly from those experiences that I liked being in research and answering research questions better than actually practicing medicine. And so I did pursue graduate school rather than medical school, which is what I had thought I would do when I started. And then coming into graduate school, as I mentioned, I had a neuroscience undergraduate degree. And so I thought that I would keep doing neuroscience research, but I actually found structural biology, which is one of the areas that our institute specializes in. And it was really exciting and something totally new that I had never seen or done before. And I dove into that, and I've really enjoyed that in my PhD as well. So you absolutely can change focus a whole bunch of times, and it can still work out. And now I'm actually looking at post PhD careers and since the pandemic, I've really gotten involved volunteering with science writing and communicating science to non-scientists, which I think there's a little bit of a shortage of in our world. And so that is, I think, a career that many PhDs don't think of right away, but it's a really great option. And that's where I'm hopefully headed.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Does anyone else have anything to add to that?
I just wanted to say that if there are people that are interested in both medicine and science, you can do both. So I hope to be a physician scientist one day, and that's why I chose to do both MD and PhD. So if you're feeling torn, like you can't decide, like for me, I enjoy like talking to patients and treating their illnesses, but I also like to make my own discoveries. So that's why I like the draw of science, is trying to make your own discoveries and contribute to the field that way. So
Excellent. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Do any of the students have any other questions for the panel as a whole or anyone individually?
I think there's a question in the.
Yeah.
Oh.
Actually, I want to address it with two short stories. Well, I'll just do one in the interest of time. My first postdoc was on nicotine research. And I think to what Savannah mentioned earlier about females not being included in studies, I actually worked in a sex differences research lab, specifically sex differences research. And it turns out, statistically, women have a harder time quitting nicotine as compared to men. So to your question, how does the research that we do help others? Both my parents smoke from like since I can remember. My dad could quit, but my mom, no, to this day, no, cannot. Even after 2 strokes, does not quit. And you know, like it's typical, it's very easy for people to say, oh, you know, that's bad for you, that's horrible for you, you should do that, or you're gonna get cancer, this is gonna happen, and all that does is just make things a whole lot worse. So getting immersed into the literature of how the neurobiology works, of how nicotine receptors regulate dopamine in the brain, just made me so aware that I have to stop telling people what to do if they don't have control over it. So in a way, you could say that the research that I did definitely helped in making my mom's life a little bit easier and bringing somebody to her life that understood why, right?
And going off of that, I obviously I just started my PhD, but an area that I'm wanting to go into is looking at sex differences in ADHD. And kind of going into that, there's big sex differences in the dopaminergic system in general, and how they're regulated in females versus males. And you see sex differences in the symptomology clinically in ADHD between males and females. And a lot of that has to do with the neurocircuitry that hasn't been explored to the extent that it should be. And there's big sex differences also in neurodevelopment between males and females, where males are more sensitive to inflictions prenatally, where females are more sensitive to stress effects postnatally. And that can be applied to many different research areas in general, but that's something I'm really passionate about putting out into the world and discovering more things about. So.
Excellent question, Dara. Sorry, I didn't see in the chat initially. Does anyone else want to answer that question?
I can really quickly. So my research project actually involves a collaboration with a pharmaceutical company. So our structural data on the ion channel is directly being shared back and forth in a collaborative effort to design a drug that would target this channel for diabetes. So I mean, it's still obviously a ways from human marketing, but it is kind of directly in that pipeline.
Anyone else? Either to answer that question or any students who want to ask another question or a question if they haven't asked one already. All right, I'm gonna take that. Okay, we have another question in the chat.
So I was a UIS student as well. So I feel like if any of you guys are interested in medical research, you have a medical institute in Springfield that you guys can all go to. And they do accept undergrads to work in the labs there. And so if you're looking for any sort of research in that area, there's a ton of labs that I talked about there that are willing to accept undergrads to work as extra help. And that's really good experience if you're looking to get into a graduate program that focuses on medical research in any way. So.
Yeah, to answer the question in the chat more broadly, any and all that you can do. I would say the question was, what kind of internships or experience did you do? Do them all or whatever you have access to. Because sometimes you don't know what you like, as others have said, or what you don't like until you do it. Sometimes you think you know what a certain type of research means, but the day-to-day doing of that research is very different. Or maybe you know, like, there's a topic you're very passionate about, like cancer research. It's a very, topic that a lot of folks are interested in. There's 9,000 ways to study cancer, from being a biologist to a chemist to an engineer to materials. I mean, there's a gazillion ways. So I would say definitely, like, any opportunity that comes your way, at least try it. And also, I'm not at UIS, I'm at UIC, but I do have some information about some of the internships and summer programs we have. So again, in the breakout rooms, if folks are interested, I'm happy to pass on those information as well too.
Okay, thank you very much. And I see that Dr. Rodriguez posted a link to the NIH programs as well. And does anyone else have any questions before we go into the breakout rooms? I know we're running a little over, but we can shift back the original schedule as well. So, and also in the breakout rooms, feel free to obtain, contact information of panelists that you would like to maintain communication with, because this is just meant to be a brief introduction. So does anyone else have any questions or would like to answer the previous question we just had in the chat?
I just quickly, I guess, how does your research applicable in the real world? I'm involved in both the shipping industry, and we're looking at how marine mammals interact with shipping, and it's very interesting to see how many people don't realize that the number of marine mammals, all different species of marine mammals, how they interact with shipping. So I'm doing a lot of work with that.
Excellent, thank you very much. If no one else has any questions or would like to add to that, I'm going to start the breakout rooms. So for the students, there should be a menu for breakout rooms that you, depending on what subjects you would like and that you would want to join. If you're not able to join it, please let us know so that we can help assign you to those breakout rooms. And in the email we sent previously in the document, we had the individuals assigned to certain breakout rooms, but if you would like to ask, a specific name and who you would like to be with, we can assign you to that breakout room too if you don't remember or don't have the document. So please feel free to either join the breakout rooms or let us know if you're unable to join.
And I can stay in the main room. So if anybody's having trouble, just drop something in the chat and I and help you get connected to a different room if you need help.
Sorry, Kristen. Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Mrs. Nisbet White, do you want me to stop the recording since,
Yes, yes, please.
yeah, okay.